Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father.
Howdy, Jack.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the 5th episode of Season 5, Red Sky, not to be confused with Red Dawn. Do you want to give us a summary of this episode, Victor?
Yeah, I was about to say Russian and Cuban troops land in a small town in Colorado and immediately take control of the entire American West. No, that is Red Dawn, which is a very fine film, I guess, if you hate happy endings. This episode does have a happy ending, though, so kind of. So the SGC goes through a wormhole and lands on a planet, and the planet is filled with pilgrims who worship the Asgard. It soon becomes very clear, though, once after they arrive, that the sun has changed color and is actually turning more and more red. Carter investigates and determines that the safeguards that usually exist for wormhole travel were overridden by the SGC when they came through, and this may have caused a heavy element to be introduced into the sun, causing it to, burn out and turn red, which will kill all life on the planet. The SGC visits with Freyr, the Asgard who is protecting the planet, and asks if there's anything the Asgard can do. And the Asgard say, no, this planet is protected by the treaty with the Goa'uld, and if they interfere, it could be big trouble for Earth and the other protected planets, as it would be a violation of the treaty. And the Asgards have their hands full with the replicators and can't possibly defend all the planets. SG-1 attempts to get the people living on the planet to leave and relocate, but they don't want to do that. They have put their trust in Freyr, and that's their story, and they're sticking to it. And eventually it comes down to the power of prayer. When all hope is lost, and there's a bit with a rocket we'll discuss later. When all hope is lost, the townsfolk pray, Daniel joins them in prayer, and the sun comes back to life. And it's unclear who may have fixed the sun. Was it a plan that SG-1 had? Was it the Asgard? Daniel isn't so sure. And so that's what's going on here, more or less. It's been a couple days since I've watched it, so there's some stuff I'm leaving out.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting things in it, but I feel like the Viking pilgrim people who lived on the planet were almost kind of an afterthought. Like they front load them, and then you kind of just don't really see them till the end.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that pretty much describes them.
Yeah. Kind of just they were a plot device, nothing more.
Well, it gives them it gives, again, Carter has doomed a world, and this is probably the third time in the past year that she's either blown up a planet, a sun, or heroically damaged.
Those were on purpose.
Yeah, those were. This was an accident, but it gives them some stakes. Ordinarily they just say let's move the people to that that Greek planet where everybody seemed to get relocated in season 1, but these people don't want to go, and they've so there is some element of religious faith versus the more scientific and reason with a capital R based approach of the SG-1, which is pretty interesting, and it leads to some dire consequences in the story and some good Jack moments. This is really a good Jack episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, he was. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. What are your thoughts on this episode, Father?
It's an okay episode. I mean, it does advance some of the plot. We learn more about the Asgard's treaty or with the Goa'uld and why they can't interfere. And part of it, of course, we know is because of the replicators are causing too much stress for the Asgard. But part of it too is if they interfere here, the entire treaty goes away, and then Goa'uld can do things like invade Earth and stuff like that. So we can learn that. But yeah, like we said here earlier, the people on the planet are kind of an afterthought. They're just the oh no, these are the people we have to save this week, including the one guy who's a perfect match for an internet rad-trad personality, Catholic rad-trad personality. But other than that, it's a okay episode. I'm sure it's playing fast and loose with the science. I've already seen a couple of sites where like the rocket wouldn't have worked anyways because it would all burned up before it got anywhere close to the core of the sun, stuff like that. But it's okay. Again, it was a plot advancing episode.
Yeah, all the science in this, you just got to kind of hand wave. But hey, you can just go with it. It's not a big issue. Yeah. What about you, Lisa?
A couple of things I really like about the episode. Overall, I think it's kind of, it's okay. A couple of things. One, I really liked the set. They really built the village, which I thought really added great detail. So it was nice looking. And then you put that with the special effect they did, or to make it the color washed out and then red. So they don't usually build a whole village. So that was kind of nice to see the detail. And then the second thing I liked was kind of what you touched on, Victor. Carter is used to like, I'm so smart, I'm going to blow up a sun. And, and this one, she's so smart. She overrode the safety protocols and almost killed a whole planet of people. So it was, I guess, kind of, I hate to say nice. It was nice to see her mess up.
Mm-hmm.
And she was affected by it and trying to deal with, she's like, I'm the one that pushed the button, like she felt bad about it. And and then she's working hard to fix it. And we don't know if she fixed it or gave the Asgard a reason to jump in, which probably is the truth. It's kind of nice to see your heroes be fallible and mess up every once in a while. And then, I think as Father Cory said that, it was a good Jack, him getting angry and seeing that real emotion from him about the guys blowing up the rocket and ruining their chances, and just all of the frustration on his part, which came across really real.
Yeah, getting to the point of pulling a gun on a guy and
he was going to shoot that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can very much see that, in this kind of situation, that you just lost a whole team because of this. And so Stargate sometimes can be a little too nicey nice, or like, oh, it'll all be okay, And so it was, like I said, it was kind of nice to see that emotion and that rawness or realness come through for them. And of course, it's all okay in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember, but do we see are there any consequences for Malchus basically becoming leading a suicide bomb team to blow up the rocket?
Not really.
Nothing really. It's like he does it, but then he's just kind of gone, and then he's back. And
Elrod says he'll deal with it. Yeah.
I think, like you said, the village people
village people.
They were kind of like, I want to say irrelevant or props. So it wasn't,
I disagree, because this is a very Jack-centric episode. And there's kind of two forces that he's facing off with here. One of which pushes Jack to the edge and is very dramatic. And the other one is very funny. I think it's some of the funniest moments in Stargate. And so the two forces that Jack's pushing up against is the village, where, usually he's used to going into a village and just pushing, basically pushing the locals around. We joke that there's no prime directive in Stargate, whatever. Oh, you need to be migrated, get through the gate or whatever. He's used to just having his way. And he runs into these people who to him are backwards thinking, obstinate, immovable. And you can see it drives them to and then they, blow up the rocket, which to men of a certain age or anybody, really watching a rocket blow up is just a devastating trigger, if you've lived long enough to see some rockets blow up in our own space program and stuff. But so that's one force that he's pushing up against, and it really drives him to the point where he almost murders a guy, right? And so the villagers aren't inconsequential. They're there for Jack to basically butt up against, and they won't budge. Jack won't budge. And what's really good about that dynamic is Daniel is in the background, and you can barely hear his lines sometimes. He's like, I don't think this is a good idea, or this is a bad idea, or this isn't going to work, and it's just Daniel being the voice of reason, but he knows in this situation, Jack is so headstrong that he's just going to keep pushing up against this immovable object, which is the village people. And then the other force is the Asgard themselves, which I think Jack's seen in the Asgard chamber where, they cut back to him and he's in this cavern, and it's holographically, he's in the Asgard chamber. So he's playing to a stone wall, literally getting stonewalled by the Asgard. But, we see him and he's talking to the Asgard and he's, basically put on the spot with like no notice. They've just dragged him in front of the Asgard High Council. And, there's some really memorable lines in there that, even Daniel picks up on, but, it's a very, it's like you guys all look.
Thor's not here?
Yeah, you guys all look, we've saved your skinny gray butts,
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's some of the funniest writing and some of the funniest acting out of Jack in the entire show. So there's those two forces, and one is played for laughs and one is played for drama. Like I said, to the point where Jack almost murders one of the villagers because he's so frustrated and upset and angry at them. And Jack's ready to write off the entire race of people here, and it's up to Daniel and Carter and Teal'c, who I think gets 2 lines, but one of them is to intercede on behalf of the village people. So yeah, no, I don't think the village people are irrelevant. I mean, they're relevant maybe to the scientific plot, but to the Jack story, I mean, it's very relevant because like we haven't really seen a native culture push him that far to the edge.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder, at what point does the SGC think they need to have some sort of like diplomatic training for their lead team?
Yeah.
I don't think Jack's gotten any.
And why is he always the one? Right? I mean, he's the one that has to go in and negotiate, and the Asgard are always picking him. And it's not suddenly he's going to get any better at this.
I think they like how choleric he is. I think they're entertained by it, and that's why they like to work with them.
They like his personality.
Yeah.
Well, we learn later that the Asgard genetically and they've even mentioned that too. They have a very stale way of thinking. This came in the end of season 3, right? And they need the humans for their unique perspective and more primitive way of thinking, because over the years they've become cloned and set in their ways. And
yeah.
So the whole issue with the reason that the Asgard cannot intervene is because it would violate the rules of the treaty, the Protected Planets Treaty that they have with the Goa'uld. But I kind of wonder, like, doesn't influencing the religious beliefs of these people, doesn't that count as interfering? Or I guess is that grandfathered in because they'd already been doing it?
Both sides are doing it, so I suppose I figure it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah.
That's the one thing
that Goa'uld really help them.
That's the one thing the Goa'uld would be okay with, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's their whole thing.
But
it's really using technology to save them, because that would be advancing on their behalf, their technology beyond the natural development and giving access to Asgard technology to these primitive people. So that's what the Goa'uld don't want.
Yeah. Well, and of course, so what's keeping the treaty alive and in place is the thought that the Goa'uld think that, the Asgard could come and kick our butts again. And we find out, we start to hear here, and then later on it gets even more explicit, the Asgard really can't defend the treaty anymore.
Yeah, they're a paper tiger.
But the Goa'uld doesn't know that, so they show up just enough times to cause trouble for the Goa'uld, and they, we moved too far, back up, let's try this again.
Yep. I'd like to see, I would have liked to see more of Elrod the Elder and just more interaction with the people in the village. I think that was my chief issue with the episode, is that you kind of just get him saying like these kind of like, he's very docile to the team. And then Malchus is the complete opposite, but you don't really get any more out of them than that. I guess that works for the episode, but it was hard to like care about what was going to happen to these people because you didn't really know any of them.
Yeah. Most of the people are just filler in the background.
But even some of that was really nice. There's a point, I think, where Jack is talking to Sam about like what's going on, how they broke the sun, how she might fix it. And they're talking kind of out on the street, and way in the background in a second story window, you can see like a mom and a daughter kind of like looking out, like watching them, like, what are they talking about? Are they talking about us, type thing. And so there's a lot of like really, really cool little, background things going on in the background as well. So the village is alive too, in addition to the sets, there's activity going on in the village. There's a lot of extras running around. It's not like some later village episodes we'll see where there's, nobody out,
Well, we've already seen plenty of those where the village is like the town square and there's like one person in then town square.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really went all out with the village in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Florida's friendliest hometown.
Yeah. And
Wrong
I think
village.
Yeah.
And they used, I think I saw somewhere that they used Christ the Redeemer Church in Surrey, British Columbia, as the set for the temple. So
yeah, it looks like it's a historic church that, there's a new church that was built, but that was the historic church that they used.
I think I read somewhere they had to take out the lights. They took out the lights to make it look old, but that's all they had to do.
Oh, cool.
Nice. It's pretty awesome. Well, they look good.
Yeah.
Well, I like though, they do their when they go to the Hall of Wisdom, the leader does his prayer, and then of course he touches the button when activates it. So of course, what does Daniel do? Well, he starts saying this prayer, and Jack just kind of goes, pushes the button.
I also liked about that scene, like Jack's obviously impatient to talk to the Asgard and go through the motions with the hologram and stuff. So when they say like, take us to the Hall of Wisdom, and they walk into the church, and Jack goes, is this the Hall of Wisdom? And I think it's Elrod looks at him and goes, no, this is a temple. The Hall of Wisdom is, then, it's like, does this look like a Hall of Wisdom to you? No, this is where we do our religious services.
Or where they're in the Hall of Wisdom and Carter starts messing with stuff and all the power goes off.
Yeah.
And I forgot who it was that said something about being trapped wherever they are, trapped underground.
Yeah. Well, we've either made contact with the Asgard or trapped ourselves deep within a vault of solid rock. Yeah. Daniel's very good in this episode with his side comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, he provides a good foil for Jack's just belligerentness.
But he's not as forceful and as passionate. I mean, he is kind of towards the end when he's imploring them not to give up on the Katau, because that's the name of the planet. But even he knows that when Jack has set his mind to something, it's very hard to change him. I did appreciate, though, as I mentioned before in the summary, that, all the people are praying, and it's, Carter's plan appears to have failed, imploring the Asgard appears to have failed. And finally, the townspeople are praying, and Daniel, for the first or maybe second time in the show, actually joins them in prayer and says a prayer on their behalf. And then as he's turning to leave, that's when, the sun perks back up. And so we get at the end, it's like, well, maybe the Asgard did intervene. And Daniel goes, I'm not so sure. So,
yeah.
I'm not going to convert to Frerism, but it's a compelling argument.
Yeah.
Nice. And so their plan with the rocket is to launch this exotic element that does not occur in nature. That's called HU 2340 into the star, so it can bind with the plutonium and
Maclarium.
Maclarium,
yep.
Just so happens that the exact element they need is something that's being produced on Earth, even a little bit at a time,
Right.
and they can get a hold of it. Just so happens.
Exact amount they need.
I think any super heavy element would have worked. That's just the one that they could get their hands on.
Well, I like that. So they bring in the scientist who's making it, Douglas McLaren, who they name it Maclarium after him, and they introduce him in a way that it seems like for a minute I had to look it up because I was like, have we seen this guy before? Because the way they bring him in, it seems like he's been introduced before. Like Carter seems like she knows him, and I looked it up, and this is his only appearance. But he hands him this super heavy exotic element that I presume you have to use a particle accelerator to even create, and like a little like test tube. It's like it would probably need to be in some sort of giant, like magnetically sealed, like nitrogen cooled container or something, not just in a tube.
Yeah. Well, they said that it took him 5 years to produce as much as he had in that little bottle.
Yep.
So,
but also in that scene, we get to see our director, Martin Wood, as Major Wood. He's the guy with the wrench helping Siler on the rocket parts and stuff there.
Siler with the wrench.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's featured quite prominently in this episode. We've seen him kind of in the background in the past, but this is our best look at him, I think.
You know, it is kind of funny, though, when you think about how, planets go around their suns and everything, that they haven't had this problem before with the Stargate.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something about it will curve, if it needs to kind of curve the wormhole or something, I don't know. But it's like, you'd think that this wouldn't be the first time that they've had problems making a connection, because Earth is behind our sun and the planet is behind their sun, and it's just lined up right.
And this also explains, so they turn off the safeguards on their Stargate. And they use that to explain why in the movie and then in the first few episodes, it's like a really, really rough ride through the Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of fine-tuned it and figured out how to align it better. But yeah, it seems like they would have done more testing with messing with the settings, but hey, who knows?
It is interesting that we're 5th season and they're telling us why the movie and the first few episodes, it was so rough. I just thought that was kind of interesting that like been 5 years, not a peep, and then now we're going to go back and explain it. I just maybe because they could,
Yeah, and I seem to recall like there was kind of a hand wave of, I tweaked a few things in the dialing computer, and that was it.
Yeah.
In episode 4 or 5, yeah.
You didn't say anything about what she did. It's just, I kind of tuned the dialing computer a little bit, and we're good to go now.
Right.
I turned up the thermostat so you don't come out of the wormhole freezing like
yeah.
Turned off the firewall.
Yeah.
Opened all the ports.
Yeah. There you go.
You can do that, but you're not safe for long.
I just like when the Asgard's like, well, there are safety protocols. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm smarter than your safety protocols.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, why didn't you tell us about them? And the Asgard are basically like, yeah, we probably should have, but oh well.
Yeah.
It's not the Asgard's responsibility to undo every mistake you make with technology that is advanced beyond your knowledge. It's basically, and the Asgard are so awesome here. They have excellent points. Jack has excellent points too. Like, we've saved you, fix the damn sun. He says at some point. Yeah, it's a really
mark.
Yeah, calling it a marker. Work some of that Asgard magic. He says to Freyr, and Freyr's like, "Are you implying that our technology is trickery?" So just his interactions, like it's like I said, I think it's some of the funniest dialogue and the way it's performed too, because Jack is basically acting to a stone wall while he's also in the Asgard chamber. So yeah, I thought that was neat. And I also like that there were some empty council seats in the Asgard. Council room, like they couldn't get everybody together on such short notice. There may be people out flying around in spaceships that can't hologram in or something. So,
like Ray says, is Thor here? Because
yeah.
Can
I talk to Thor? Yeah.
When he starts
Thor's
talking,
not here. Yeah.
Yeah. When he starts talking about Freyr and like he's not there, and then Freyr's like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way they do that because I'm assuming they use the same puppet for all of them.
Probably.
It is kind of funny because we're all going, how do you know, who's who or whatever? If you're exactly the same. They're clones. They're exactly the same.
Maybe it's the sweet medallions they're wearing. Like that one has like a Flava Flav thing going on.
Yeah, there you go.
I did like that when Jack said, well, we'll risk it. Waving the treaty, you help us and we'll risk it. And he says, you can't speak for your entire planet. And by waving it for your planet, you're waving it for all of these planets. And so that you just, you can't do that. It's immoral. It's, all kinds of bad stuff. So I like the letting us know that it was a much bigger issue and that the Asgard have everybody in mind.
Yeah, I don't understand how this treaty works. I've mentioned it before on the podcast because, like, the humans, one of Asgard protected planets, are actively waging war against the Gould. They've blown up multiple Gould motherships.
Yeah.
They've killed multiple Gould system lords using technology that is not within their natural development. I don't know if it's not specifically Asgard technology, maybe, but that comes later.
The humans are taking the Goa'uld technology and using it against them, at least, not counting the Stargate itself, which we know is ancient, but still, it's like, well, they're protected by the Asgard, but the Asgard are letting them raise Cain all over the cosmos.
As a part of the treaty, the Asgard don't have to restrict the humans. The treaty is between the Asgard and the Goa'uld, right? So the Asgard can't help or advance the humans. But I don't remember it saying that the humans can't go out there and create a ruckus.
Yeah, it's still like a weird treaty, though. It's like I can attack you as much as I want using, whatever means are at my disposal. But if you attack me, then the Asgard will protect me type thing. It's like some weird NATO or something.
Yeah.
I guess it's basically just a non-aggression agreement against those two, but
I think it's
have proxy wars.
I think it's because the Asgard and the Goa'uld are both so arrogant that they just don't truly believe that humans or any of these little planet people could ever do anything that would really, really damage them. They just don't think it's possible. Only the Asgard and the Goa'uld, are big enough and powerful enough to really hurt each other. So everybody else is kind of irrelevant in that way.
Well, and also the treaty is for that they can't attack Earth. It's not they can't attack the humans. And that's why, how many, alpha bases and beta bases they had in this series where the Asgard destroy them?
Yeah, that's
true. And they attack them when
you set up a base on another planet and it gets destroyed. So,
and they do go after them when they run into them out there.
Yep. Yeah. So it's not the humans in particular; it's Earth. So they can't attack our home world, but they can attack elsewhere.
Yeah.
Still odd terms, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd think at this point that the Goa'uld would realize that the humans are an actual threat because they've killed like 4 or 5 of them by now.
They know they're an actual threat. They're just too, full of themselves and fighting amongst themselves to do anything about it.
Right. Very one-track mind.
Yep.
And probably in some way they think, oh, that's fine. You knocked off so-and-so. That's good for me because I can absorb their ships and people and warriors and I'll grow stronger and whatever. You just help me out there. Oh, that's actually what the Tok'ra think too, isn't it?
True, yeah.
Because the Tok'ra don't like
Game
it.
of Thrones, but with worms.
Yeah.
Game of Worms.
Yeah.
One thing we get, speaking earlier, we're talking about, getting explanations. We also get an explanation of what happens if the wormhole terminates before they get to their destination.
Oh, yeah.
And it says basically get scattered into their element parts, which if you're trying to release an element to the middle of the sun is exactly what you want it to do. But if a human being was out in space and that happened, oops.
Yeah. You're not going to influence the sun too much with a handful of carbon or whatever. So,
no.
Yeah.
I'd also wonder with that heavy element they have, like, got like a film canister's worth right there. Is that really going to have any effect on a sun?
Apparently
Probably
that much
not.
plutonium coming down the wormhole did it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, again, got to hand wave the physics.
Yeah.
There, but whatever.
And it didn't affect the sun that much. It just made it a little bit more red, right? It didn't blow it up. It just made it red enough that the crops wouldn't grow anymore.
That was the concern is photosynthesis wouldn't happen with the red color. So then they couldn't have crops and they'd die.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's weird. Like if our sun just changed color a little bit, like would we all die? That makes you think.
I guess would plants like eventually evolve to have black leaves because that would absorb more red light?
Like in millions of years, maybe.
Yeah.
Assuming any plant survived to evolve.
Yeah.
True.
In Wally's boot or whatever.
In a greenhouse.
In a refrigerator, yeah.
What was that movie from the 70s where they had all the greenhouse in the space station and Earth was devastated?
Not Zardoz.
Oh,
no.
no.
That was, yeah.
It's a very different movie.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of movies. There's an episode of Doctor Who where there was a arc in space where it was basically a space station orbiting Earth that had been wiped out.
Yeah.
Well, even think about Battlestar Galactica. They had big greenhouses to grow food and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that got blown up too. So.
Yep.
I liked Elrad's hat. He had a really cool hat.
It was
kind of a
pretty
cowboy
rad.
hat, sort of, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Elrad. He was not El Cid. He was Elrad.
Kind of a cross between a cowboy hat and a Saturno, the priest Saturno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get why they're pilgrims, but
I think they kind of had a mixed, like all of the costumes were a little mixed in their time frame and theme. But costume department went out on this one. I mean, they had some.
They did, yeah.
I mean, puffy sleeves and, some big stuff going on.
Well, and Daniel said that this is what would happen if the Vikings evolved into modern day. But still as primitive.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite get the Norwegian influence or the Vikings influence on that, but
maybe their thought was a lot of people in England are descended from Vikings when they came over there, and pilgrims are from England, and so therefore
could be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't do something cheesy where they had like modernized, like stereotypical Viking like horns on their hats or something. Like they kept it subtle. So
that's what his hat is made out of. That's the modern day version of the horns,
like Thor 2 or something.
That is funny that all of this Norse mythology, we never see the Viking, like except for on Thor and stuff.
Yeah, except for the holograms.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Didn't the Cimmerians or whatever they were called, like on Thor's planet? Didn't they have like Viking helmets at some point?
Oh, yeah. I guess a few
they
did.
But they were less advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like OG Vikings.
Yeah.
OG Viking.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look up like 18th century clothes and fashion styles that people wore in Norway. Maybe this is what they wore. I mean,
yeah,
maybe.
Oh, like Hans Christian Andersen or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had flowers and fruit. And like I said, they really went all out on this between the clothes and the set and lots of extras. And it's kind of maybe they hadn't, everything came in under budget. And so they're going all out on everything else.
It sounds like the fruit, like there's the one thing you could tell was some kind of strange pear, it was like a pear, but it was just the one where Sam is trying to explain, and he says that's comparing apples to whatever that is.
Yeah. Oh, that's another moment I really liked is they get through the gate and they're greeted by the villagers and they have a fruit basket, and Jack, without thinking, just like says, "Hey, what have we got in there?" And just pops the fruit and
starts going through it.
Yeah, just like we need to know if you're going to be like deathly allergic to whatever this was grown in or something.
He's hungry, apparently.
Some soil toxin or parasite that you're not familiar with.
I did listen to the commentary on the DVD today, and they said, "Hey, that was ad-lib. That is Richard Dean Anderson." Like, oh, what's in here? That's and Amanda Tapping was on the commentary, so it was kind of funny because she specifically mentioned the using fruit to explain science. Yep. She said she hates that. Absolutely hates it. That is the most horrible thing, and they do it to her all the time, and she just doesn't. She doesn't like it. So she's like, there I am explaining science with fruit, They
should use a Twinkie like in Ghostbusters. That's a big Twinkie.
That's a big Twinkie.
Yeah. So I just I looked up 18th century Norwegian clothing, and at least for the women, they have like those big Whipple nun looking thingies. So I guess that's what they were pulling from, because it looks pretty much just like that. So
never doubt the costume designers. They're the most detail oriented people you will ever meet.
And of course, usually you get one line: "Look like modern day Vikings."
Yeah,
modern day Norwegians.
Yeah. Which is fun. It makes it funny that Daniel would say this is what Vikings would be like if they survived till modern times. And that's,
I think he said modernity, which is when did modernity start? Like the I don't know.
Something like
17th
that,
century.
1800s.
Yeah, 17th century. So 1600s, I think. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Leave us a reply in the comments if I've totally butchered when modernity started and need to go back to school.
Please tell us everything that we're wrong about Norwegian fashion and
if I misused the word whipple, please let me know.
Mr. Whipple? Oh wait, that was a is that toilet paper commercial? No.
Yeah.
Squeeze the Charmin. Don't squeeze the Charmin. No.
Don't squeeze the Charmin. That was a big problem in the 70s.
Yeah. Made you want to go to the grocery store. Squeeze the Charmin.
I have no idea what y'all are talking about.
So they would set up huge displays of Charmin toilet paper, and creepy looking guys in these commercials would come by and pick it up and go like, "Yeah." And then Mr. Whipple worked in the store and he'd go like, "Don't squeeze the Charmin."
These are 1970s, early 80s commercials.
Big laughs every time.
Yep. Hey, we remembered it, didn't
afterwards.
we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but nowadays we just have the creepy bears who are obsessed with toilet paper.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, and for some reason, like toilet paper sticks to them at an
alarming rate.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they're not out in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least they're cartoons.
Thank goodness. This episode is not sponsored by Charmin, by the way.
No.
though we will take any sponsorship ideas. Contact Dom at no.
Get the best sleep of your life by going to bed early.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
On that note, did y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
Just one thing they call the Stargate the annulus, which means ring. It just means ring. Or it's mathematically, it's if you take two circles one side to the other, you fill in between the two circles. That's the annulus. And so that's, of course, rings look like that.
That's good, and that's not at all what I thought they were saying. So I'm glad that
were you missing a few letters?
Or substituting
back to
some
Charmin.
vowels. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I was waiting for Jack to make that joke, but fortunately, he didn't.
And he called it the annulus once correctly, which was
correctly.
Yeah.
He got some of the science correct. I did like his interactions with Sam. He's like, okay, just fix it, whatever. Go back to the SGC and confuse Hammond.
Yeah.
Another great line.
But isn't this one he said something and he's like, I got it right. Was that this episode? Or was that the last episode?
Yeah, he explained something. Well, then there's where she's explaining her plan to basically, drop this element into the star, and Hammond says, I thought this was a 1 in a million chance. And she goes, well, now the odds are up to 1%. Jack goes, well, that's good because I only understand about 1% of what she says anyways. So
yeah.
Yeah, she makes psychobabble. Psychobabble, that sounded bad. Technobabble sound really easy and good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of really good, Jack moments in this. He wonders if he has a stroke twice, when the sun the color of the sun changes, which if you were out and about and that happened, you might wonder if there was some sort of a blood flow issue in your brain.
Cataracts are coming on quick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Jeffrey W., Dennis H., Daniel M., Ann M., and Ron L. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1, Rite of Passage. Until then, Father Cory, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thank you, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
The elves are the harbinger of our doom. And also, thanks, Jack.
It's always the elves.
It's always.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?